What's up, everyone? Shane here. Welcome to another episode of Shane's Brain. This is my monthly recap show where I discuss all the horror media that I managed to consume for the previous month. This is not including the films that we reviewed on the Casters of Horror show, and those were Prey, Malum, The Pope's Exorcist, and Kill Her Goats. We watched all four of those movies and reviewed them. Check those out and let us know if you've watched any of them, what you think. I managed to get some not too many things done this past month. Watched a few movies, and I've got a couple other things to talk about. I'm actually going to kick things off by talking about a novel. I used to read a lot more than I do now, but I found this one. This one is called The Broken Places by Blaine Daigle. This is about a man named by the name of Ryan Burdett, who he inherits his family's old hunting cabin in the Yukon wilderness, right? And basically, his father and his uncle have recently died, and this was his uncle's cabin. And this guy, he's already dealing with trauma in his life, right? But he decides to go out to this cabin, and he takes a couple of his best friends with him, and he has like these memories of this place, right? He grew up going to this place, but he also has some memories of strange things happening with his uncle and the surrounding forest, right? But he kind of just he thought they were dreams, right? And so him and his friends go out there, and of course there's a massive storm approaching, and they ended up getting stranded in in this cabin. And weird things begin to happen. Weird things with the surrounding forest and the animals in the forest. It's like the animals are more self aware than they should be, right? And just lots of really bizarre stuff, is going on. And what ends up, well, I'm not going to obviously give it away, but the main character Ryan ends up finding out that his family is pretty deeply connected to this area, and his uncle and his father were kind of harboring some deep secrets about the land and his family. And yeah, it's if you've ever seen the movie The Ritual, that's kind of actually what it reminds me the most of. You got these guys trapped in the woods, and there is some sort of creature or presence out there. And in fact, this is, I've mentioned on the show before how much I love cosmic horror. Probably my second favorite genre is this sort of folk horror. I love this sort of thing. For one, I think it's an interesting way to just learn about different folklores from around the world. And if it's folk horror, even better. Now, I realize that The Ritual was based on a novel of its own. I've never read that one. I probably should, seeing how much I liked that movie. But yeah, this is actually a debut novel from this author, Blaine Daigle. Really surprising to me that this would be a debut because I really liked it. This is one of the few novels I've ever read where I actually kind of felt unsettled while reading it. And I don't know if it's just the whole idea of being trapped out there in the woods and these critters are acting in ways that they definitely shouldn't be. There's a lot more going on in this book. I don't want to spoil it. It's absolutely worth a read. If you like folk horror, highly recommend this one. It's a really great first novel, and I will definitely be watching out for whatever this author is coming up with next. I'm looking forward to it. Now, I will jump into some movies. So, I watched a movie called Triangle. This is a 2009 film, written and directed by Christopher Smith. It's got a few pretty good, pretty big names in it. We've got Michael Dorman, Melissa George, who I haven't seen in anything for a while, but a fantastic actress, and also in like a supporting role, Liam Hemsworth in what was actually one of his very first big screen roles. I think I can't remember what his other role was this year, but this was like the first year that he really hit the big screen like that. But anyway, Melissa George plays Jess. She's the main character. But basically, these five friends they decide to go sailing, right? And they happen upon this freak storm, and their yacht gets overturned, and so now they're just out there waiting for a rescue. And fortunately, a like a luxury liner comes by, right? A cruise ship comes by, and they hail it. You know, they're out there, they get its attention, and they see someone on board. They finally make their way on, and this thing is abandoned, right? Almost completely abandoned. They end up discovering some horrors on board, and very quickly find themselves being picked off one by one. Um, and it sounds like I'm getting spoilery, but I'm really not, right? Because this actually happens, not like really early in the movie, but it's pretty quick the way it all plays out, right? And ends up where Jess, who again is played by Melissa George, Jess being basically the last one standing, when she suddenly hears something, she goes out on the dock of the, out on the dock of the boat, and the deck of the boat, and she sees some people who are stranded. Their boat got caught in a storm. So yeah, quite familiar looking people, including one that looks exactly like her. So yeah, this is a time loop movie, right? The yacht that they go out on is called Triangle, but I'm guessing this is, Bermuda Triangle stuff going on. So yeah, it's a time loop horror movie. Um, if you're a fan of sci-fi at all, you've seen time loop stuff. I'm kind of of the opinion that if you've seen one, you've seen them all. It's rare that I see one do something like incredibly different. Um, Honestly, probably my favorite example of a time loop story is actually an episode of Farscape, which is not horror, but yeah, this is a horror take on one of the many horror takes on your traditional time loop story. But you know what? For being something that's not exactly original, I actually pretty much still liked it. And a lot of this, I think, comes down to Melissa George, who absolutely carries this movie. And there's something else going on with her. She's a single mom to an autistic boy, but she comes out on this yacht alone. She comes out without him, even though, like, at the beginning of the movie, she mentions to him, "Hey, we're gonna go out." But then she ends up not bringing him, and that does come up, and kind of circle back around to it. Lots of interesting things going on here, and there is clearly a force at work that is incomprehensible, and I don't know, is it undefeatable? I mean, with stuff like this, who knows? My only problem with the film really is that I think it's to me, I kind of knew exactly where it was going. But again, maybe that's just the nature of this sort of thing, with these time loop movies. Again, to me, it's very rare that they actually do something different. But again, I actually really enjoyed this one. I think it's worth a watch. Like I said, this is called Triangle. Came out in 2009. I don't know how I missed it, honestly, because this sort of thing is right up my alley. I love Melissa George. I love this sort of like sci-fi horror type thing, even though it's sci-fi is it's that's not really, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I don't know how I missed this one. I never even heard of it, but this was a good one. I'm glad I watched it. I would recommend checking it out. I think it's worth a watch. Also, so Insidious 5 is coming out. This was Insidious The Red Door. Or actually, it's already out as of the time of this recording. And we are planning on reviewing it on the channel. So, in order to prep for that, I needed to play some catch up. So, I saw Insidious. I don't know if I saw it back when it first came out. So, this was 2010 that the first Insidious movie came out. I don't remember when I actually saw it. I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it I think I watched it once it hit Netflix or something. Absolutely loved this movie. Right now, Insidious is a It's a James Wan film. I think he was the director, right? So directed by James Wan, actually created and written by Lee Winnell, who also stars in the movie in a supporting role. And yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I think for some reason I always compared it to The Conjuring, which is another James Wan film. And I prefer Insidious. I think Insidious is the better film. But that's fine. Obviously, they're both fantastic. Great series all around. The thing is, for some reason, I had never actually watched any of the other movies. I remember when I saw the advertisements for The Last Key, which is the fourth movie. I had to actually look it up at that point and realize that I had missed two other movies before it. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I decided to go ahead and play catch up, and yeah, so this is going to be just like my quick take on the 2, 3, and 4. And I will say that, for one, I think this is a really solid series. I really like all of the movies. I like some more than others. I think I probably like 3 and 4 better than most people, because I know like the first two are the ones that everybody just absolutely freaks out over. And I do think that I would still say the first one is my favorite. Um, Maybe. I don't know. I will say that the first one had a jump scare that just absolutely got me. And it's not even the famous one that everybody always says with the yeah, the demon behind Patrick Wilson, Patrick Wilson's character. And so the 2, 3, and 4 actually continue this trend. Really good, really great jump scares. And I am someone who I'm not a huge fan of jump scares. Um, I think they're fine when used correctly. And I also just happen to think that James Wan films tend to do them correctly. So I tend to be okay with them. And he is a big fan of these scenes where you can tell a jump scare is coming. You can tell it's coming. They're setting it up. They keep having all these little things, and you just know it's coming, and it does, but not in the way you think, and it gets you anyway. At least that's what happens to me. So, yeah, I really enjoyed all the films. I think that I thought it was neat how they kept tying all of it together. But I also do hope that the fifth one, which I haven't watched yet, um, I hope that that does wrap up this story so that we can kind of get past it. Of those four, I don't really know which one is my favorite. Um, I Three was obviously the prequel of prequels. It's the one that set up um, the Elise's character and basically tells her backstory. Not all of her backstory, but I really liked four though, and I liked the way that they introduced characters in four who could kind of maybe continue the um, carry the mantle that Elise leaves behind. Sorry for spoilers, but what my thing is, I don't actually know if they're going to do that. There seems to be this thing with this series where they kind of introduce these concepts and then maybe don't necessarily go anywhere with them. There's some the end of Insidious 2, I feel like hasn't necessarily been played out yet, and that's because 3 and 4 are both prequels. But yeah, I don't know. It's got me looking forward to the fifth one and the future. I'm looking forward to. I know that there has already been talk of an Insidious 6 and of actually a spin-off, and I'm really curious about the spin-off because I don't know where that's going to go. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure we will be watching and review. I know for sure we'll be watching. Our plan is to review Insidious: The Red Door, which is the fifth one. So keep an eye out for that. And lastly, I'm just going to talk about a video game that I have kind of gotten stuck on. Not gotten stuck on. Um, I played a lot of last month, and it is yet another one of these horde survival like action roguelites. This one is called Halls of Torment, and this is from a developer. The developer is Chasing Carrots. I had played another one of their games called Good Company. Totally different vibe, right? And it was just about like it was like a not like a factory automation game, more like a business automation game. I don't know. Halls of Torment is a completely different vibe. It is a very much a horror setting, but again, it's not. We're not talking like scary. It's just it's the aesthetics of it, right? A lot of it looks like you're traipsing through. Um, there's one where you're traipsing through this like not really like a graveyard, but it's like one of those. Is it a mausoleum? I think I don't know. One of them looks like you're straight up traipsing through hell and you're fighting off these just absolute hordes and hordes of monsters. Now, this is another genre where I feel like there are so many of them out there that it's difficult to distinguish them. Halls of Torment is, let's see, it is an early access, so it's one of those that's still being very actively developed on and changed. So, the game that I played last month, there's already been some quality of life changes, quite a few quality of life changes if I were to fire it up and play again today. But I wanted to specifically mention it because there's something that this game does that I actually thought was really clever, and it's just something simple, and that is, with these games, you've got all these hordes of enemies just rushing right toward you, right? That's how all these games function. All these enemies are rushing right toward you. This one does something I think was funny with the like the critters, like the dog type critters. They will, or like the wolf, I guess would be a better comparison. The wolf-like critters, even though they're like hellhounds, and stuff like that, they will actually run at you, but in this like circular formation, right? So they won't just charge you head on. They'll actually try to run, in a spiral position towards you, just like I would expect a pack of dogs, hunting dogs to do. So I don't know. To me, that was just a clever little addition, and some of the enemies too. So many times with these games, it's bullet hell almost, and you're just trying to mow down enemies. It's your power versus a horde of enemies. With this one, I feel like there actually is maybe a little bit of strategy that you have to employ to get rid of these hordes, because you've got to take out these for instance these dogs. You got to take them out in the correct way so that you can clear a path, because there's some other enemies that might take a little bit more damage, or they have something else that's going on with them. So no, to me, there are. It's not one of those where you just are constantly playing the same way. It's one of those where different waves of enemies act differently, and so every few minutes you have to change up your tactics in how you approach taking down these hordes. And I just really appreciate that. I think that's a nice touch. It's a nice little twist on the genre. Um, like I said, it is an early access, so it's obvious that this is a game that is a work in progress. It's a little rough around the edges, doesn't quite have that polish yet, but it is one of those that when they are done with it, if it's not something that they just continually develop, it's one of those that I think is going to be fantastic. I think it's already very good, and with just some of that extra work, it's going to be a great game. So yeah, I have lost hours to this game, and I'm enjoying it a lot. That's Halls of Torment. It's from Chasing Carrots, so it's available on Steam. I'll link to it. I don't know. Maybe I'll end up playing it on the channel. I don't know. I do have a video out of the Renfield game, so you can check that out too. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that all the horror related media that I consumed in the month of June. And so yeah, that's all I got for this month. I appreciate you watching. Thank you. I will leave links in the description to the various things where you can find all this stuff and our previous reviews. So make sure you check those out. Hey, let me know if you like these monthly recaps, stuff that I'm able to talk about that we don't get to talk about, during our review shows or whatever. And if you have any recommendations for me, that's the big thing. If you have any recommendations for me you think I should check out, let me know in the comments. And, but it doesn't matter if it's, movies, games, books, whatever. I love recommendations, and I would love to check out more. If you've been watching, what I like: cosmic horror, Lovecraftian horror. The folk horror. Now, I guess I could say, but I'll give anything a shot. So just let me know, and I don't know if I check it out, then I'll let you know on the in a future episode of Shane's Brain. So anyway, that's all I got for this month, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.